I Saw Three Ships, a very old tune. The earliest printed version of this goes back to the 17th century, and it may well originate from Derbyshire in England, which is what I'm looking at out of the window. Now this is a tune that it works really nicely on the ukulele. It's in 6/8 time. So download the tablature from below and you'll see at the beginning we have a 6 and an 8 above each other. Don't panic about 6/8 time. I know we're used to playing in counting in 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3 and 4, 4 or 3, 4. 6/8 time is really just 2 beats, but those 2 beats are divided into 3 each. So we get this lovely rolling feel of 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Now often when we're normally playing in 3, 4 or 4, 4, we divide the beat up by halving it and halving it again, and that's great for getting quarters and eighths and sixteenths, but not so good for groups of 3, and we have to write triplets. If the whole piece has that 3 feel, it ends up looking a real mess of triplets everywhere and it's very hard to read. So we write songs that have that feel in a time like 6/8 or maybe 9/8 or 12/8. They all have that same rolling feel. It's just how many strong beats there are. You'll notice from the music that some of the sticks are just straight sticks coming down and some have a little flag on, and that by and large they alternate between one and the other. And that's because one of the ones with a flag on is one of the notes in our little group of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're the 6/8 notes that make up 6/8. If we have one without a flag, that one is twice as long. So that makes up 2 of our group of 3. That means when we get a long note and a short note, we end up with this kind of feel. If we don't sing the 2, we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, bump, 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 like a swing feel, rather than 1, bump, 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 everything nice and even. We get bump, 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 long, short, long, short. Another thing about this one is it starts just before the start of the proper first bar with one little note. It's got a flag on it, so if we counted it in, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. That would come right at the end of a bar. Then we have this rhythm. So notice it's not. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A second note of each group there, delayed. We're going to be playing the chords, and a lot of this tune is built around the chord shape. So as always, let's just have a look at the chords and see if that helps us find our fingering. Oh, there are only 2 chords. That's fantastic. Have a quick little run through it. Da 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 da. Now the tablature plays through twice, but really when we get to the end of the second line, we finish the tune. I've repeated it because in the second half I've put a nice little variation in. You don't have to do it, but it's just one of those fun things that you can do when you have a tune like this. You can start to add little things and make your own arrangement of it. So let's go through those first 8 bars, then you've got the whole tune, and then I'll point out the variation. First of all, we're going to be holding down that G chord. We're going to do that even before we start playing the first note, because that first note is on our C string and we're already holding the 2nd fret there. Now I'm going to strum all of this with my thumb. I find that helps, gives me control about how many strings I'm going to strum, but if you want to try picking it, feel free. So, I, saw is just 3 strings, not the first string. We don't need that yet. Then the 2nd string again. Then we're going to play all 4 strings, but we're going to lift off our 2nd finger to leave the A string open. Strum all of them, then put it back and pluck it again. So let's just get that with that extra little 2 at the beginning as well. Then we're going to put our little finger down on the 5th fret. Now this is a bit of a stretch. If you've got a soprano as well as a tenor that you might play normally, this might be a good time to go and get your soprano, because that stretch is quite easy on a soprano and can be quite difficult on a tenor. But I'm still playing the G chord. I've just popped my little finger down on the 5th fret of the A string, and I'm going to strum all the way through again. Then I'm going to lift off my little finger and just play the 2nd fret, which I'm still holding. And then we're going to go to a D7 chord, the nice, simple, straightforward 2-finger D7 chord. 2 open, 2 open. And strum all the way through it. Let's just get to that point. Okay, then we play the 3rd fret on our 1st string, back to our G chord again. All of them, regular old G chord, all the strings. So I did all of them, then I just played the 2nd string, then I played a chord again, but I stopped short of playing the 1st string. Then I played the 1st string, and then we're back to a D7. And this time we're going to work our way down the strings. Now notice when we get to the C string it says 2. We're not holding that down. What I do at that point is I move that finger across onto that string to catch that last little note, because then of course we're going into a G chord next and it'll be in the right place. So I actually move that finger across from the G string just in time for that last note, and then I can form the G chord to start the next line. So here's the first line. Move that finger, make a G, and then we play that note again, just like we did at the beginning. Then we do the same thing again. That was all the same as the first time. This time it's a bit different. We do a G, then we play our 2nd string, and then our little sort of 3-string G, stopping short of the 1st string. And this time, for the first time, we're actually going to play a group of 3. Open, 2nd, so I lift off my 2nd finger and then put it down. And then we play a D7, and then a G, but we miss the 1st string. And stop there. I know there's one more note on that bar, but just stop there for a moment and I'll explain that in a second. So that 2nd line of the tab goes like this, but I'll start from that very last note of the 1st line, just like we did at the beginning. We've got that rogue note there. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3. And when we get a note with a dot on it, like we have on that D7 at the end of the 2nd line, that dotted note with a single stick, that lasts for a whole group of 3. So when we get to that bit, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now that G should also last 1, 2, 3, but we've got that little rogue note on the end like we had at the beginning. We'd only put that note in if we're going to go round and do the whole thing again. So let's play the first 2 lines all together, and then I'll show you how the second 2 lines differ. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now that's the whole tune. You can just play that over and over again and that's absolutely perfect. I just heard on one recording I've got of this a nice little descending line happening under some of the chords, and I wondered if I could fit it in on the uke, and it turns out that you can. It's a very subtle variation, but it is quite nice to put these little things in so it's not always exactly the same thing. So here's the thing, the next 2 lines are identical to the first 2, except for right at the end I've not put that little rogue note because I'm imagining we're going to stop right at the end. But of course if you want to put that little 2 in right at the end, you can then play the whole thing again, or you could count the 2 at the very beginning as being that note and loop round and round. But the third line of your tablature is exactly the same as the first line. No changes there, but from bar 12 I start to introduce this little line. Just a 3-note descending line over I saw 3 ships come sailing in. So this is what's happening. I've got my G, but instead of just playing a G with an open A string, I actually move the note on my third string down. So now I'm playing open to 2 open. That note's going downwards. Then I add the second fret on my first string. And then instead of doing that big stretchy G, I actually now leave my E string open. So open 2, open 5. Because the little descending line has gone 3, 2, and now it's going open. And then we're back into the previous part. It's exactly the same. So the difference is only really in bar 12 and the first beat of the next bar. So let me play you what that sounded like the first time and what it sounds like the second time. Just that little bit. With no variation, just the original version. And with the variation. Very subtle, but it's just one of those nice little things you can add just to stop having to do the same thing over and over again. It's up to you whether you include it. This is a really nice one to play because it's a very, very old piece of music, and I think at Christmas time there are lots of modern Christmas songs, but sometimes it's nice to go right back to those old songs that would have been sung for centuries around the Christmas tree. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you again soon. Have a happy Christmas. Bye bye.